Arsenal 2, Wolves 0. It's a huge result for Arsenal at the start of the season. Confident at the back. Havertz and Saka picking up big goals just like they did last season. And Arsenal started essentially in a perfect fashion. And actually, if you look at Arsenal's fixtures at the start of the season, it's a lot harder than I think it was at the start of last season for Arsenal. They've got the likes of obviously Man City, Aston Villa and Spurs very early on in the campaign. I think these kind of standard wins against Wolves, obviously Arsenal should be beating Wolves at home. And I think when Wolves arrive at the Emirates, they arrive on the back end of form from the previous season where they looked really flat. I think they'd, on some level, had bought their tickets to the beach as well. I think they had done so well at the start of last season. Gary O'Neill, I think he was absolutely electric with how Wolves performed at the start of last season. Big wins against Man City, Liverpool as well. And at the back end of last season, they were really flat. And I think that Wolves side actually rocked up today at the Emirates. I think Gary O'Neill's going to have to tweak a few things. They created some big chances. We're going to talk about the chances, the goals, and of course, where Arsenal go at the start of the Premier League campaign. I think there's an aura of confidence. I noticed when Mick Arteta went up to Gary O'Neill at the end. Obviously, a small observation. You can't draw too much information from it. But he looked not tense, but he looked a little bit ruthless on some level. He looked like a job done, on to the next one. And that's the kind of, there's no element of it being casual or we're early in the season, so it doesn't really matter. I think this Arsenal side and Mick Arteta at the helm fully grasps the magnitude of what has to happen this season. That is winning the Premier League. There's no beating around the bush. Every single season under Mick Arteta, Arsenal got more points than the previous season. Sometimes that means the same position in the table, back-to-back eighths, of course, and then a jump into second for a couple of years in a row. So Mick Arteta is building something, whether we like it or not, based on that pattern, based on that rhythm, that is close to 90 plus points in the early 90s. And I think that the Wolves' performance, again, it should be 100 times out of 100, it should be an Arsenal win at the start of the season at the Emirates. 1,000,000%, I believe that, based on where Wolves are and where Arsenal are. But when I looked at the lineup, I thought actually it's essentially the same lineup that Arsenal had nearly at the end of last season, when even Thomas Partey came back into the fold at the back end of last season, which says a lot because first it says Arteta has a lot of trust in this Arsenal 11. That you look at some of the sides that are going to be playing on the opening day of the Premier League campaign. There'll be a lot of changes, a lot of new players coming in and out. Only Calafiori really, obviously Marino hasn't quite signed yet for Arsenal. Calafiori unused on the bench. Urian Timber comes on, but that's obviously comparable to the start of last season. So the big observation has to be that this is essentially the same side from last season with Calafiori thrown in. I think Arsenal need transfers, but it also says that this young, vibrant Arsenal side have got a lot of room to grow. I think Arteta trusts them to go again. They've got the capacity to grow again and develop and learn and be better than the previous season. I think that was the one observation that I had from the starting 11. It's almost the same strategy. We can debate if it's going to work long term. We'll debate if that wins them the Champions League or gets them further in the Champions League or further against Man City in big games coming up. But in these kind of games against bottom half opposition, it's a beautiful system that is still not really been found out. I thought the midfield was so much more balanced when Thomas Partey comes in. I'm a huge fan of Thomas Partey. I think he sprays the ball around far more naturally than Declan Rice. Declan Rice is very good at getting out of his feet and knocking it. Obviously very good at driving with the ball, but I just see him far more up the pitch. I see him far more as this kind of player that can latch onto things and be more of an energy going forward a little bit. And I think Thomas Partey is a natural number 6. I think Arsenal will be absolutely crazy to get rid of him. No massive rumours from my understanding that Thomas Partey is going to leave Arsenal. But if there were any kind of weird bids to come in, Saudi Arabia, I know he's sort of in that 30 age category. I still think there'd be a massive mistake. You're not going to get 30, 40, 50 million for him. And I think he brings so much experience. If Thomas Partey stays fit and is kind of in this zone of playing for Arsenal, this season, he's rested and rotated correctly with Jorginho. It's massive, and he's a player that we don't really talk about in the media because I think he's an unbelievable best defensive midfielder going in Europe. He's right up there on his day. He really is, and I noticed it today. I thought this guy's top quality. Just the way he knocks the ball around, he just hits it with so much pace. He's a very, very talented footballer indeed. We have to talk about Kai Havertz. Last season, 13 Premier League goals. This season, he started early. The pressure is off because obviously he's not a new signing anymore. And sometimes that works, especially for a player like Kai Havertz, who I think wilts a little bit under the pressure when there's a lot of focus on him, especially a lot of focus around him and Mikel Arteta. Where will Mikel Arteta play him last season? Is he a midfielder? Is he a number 9? Is he even good enough for Arsenal? A lot of debate, a lot of kind of noise. And at the start of this game, very little noise. Ball comes in from Saka. It's a beautiful ball. How many times are we going to see it from Saka? I mean, we talk about Saka sometimes as this kind of workhorse. He goes up and down. He doesn't maybe have the natural talent as some other Premier League wingers of yesteryear. He's got so much ability in terms of how he shoots, his power at shooting, his link-up play, his brains. He's got a very, very high-level football IQ. And the way he whips the ball in is absolutely fantastic. And it makes it so easy. It's almost a goal guaranteed because of the quality of delivery. He just touches it in with his head, Kai Havertz. He should be scoring far more of those. He probably could have had 17, 18 Premier League goals last season if he scores more in the air. And for someone who's 6'4", 6'5", I think he should be scoring more goals like that with just gentle touches. Sometimes he balloons things. It wasn't the perfect performance from him today. I don't think there was a chance in the second half where he scuffs it wide. But him and Saka looked like really good today, I thought. Have to talk about Saka coming in from the left wing, doing the Iron Robben. I mean, there's not many players like that in the world, and it's very, very hard to defend against. I think it's Ait Nuri, who's, I think, a really good fullback for Wolves. Couldn't get anywhere near him today, really, at points. It wasn't the most energetic performance. A lot of these players are coming back from long, arduous international campaigns, but Mikel Arteta has kind of built this core. They've got good energy between all of them, and they just were raring to go from the first minute, 25 minutes in, casual and easy as you like for Arsenal. The strike's brilliant. To beat a man like Jose Sa, who's a fantastic keeper, near post is good as well. Maybe a little bit unlucky. I think it was deflection off Gomez from Wolves as well. But all in all, this Arsenal side, they look confident. That looked like a continuation from the back end of last season, the final day of last season, where they were so close to winning their first title in 20 years. It didn't look like a side that had been rocked in confidence. It didn't look like a side that was flat, devoid of ideas, a side that was at the end of its cycle. It just looks like it's in the continuation of what happened last season. David Raya made some big saves today from Larsson, who looks like a handful, I'm not going to lie. Saliba, Gabriel, it's almost like a narrative that you're just going to be talking about for many years to come. Another clean sheet for Arsenal, fantastic. And Jurrien Timber, who lost the ball at the end of the game and conceded a cheap chance, but he looks... I just love Jurrien Timber. Something about the way he plays football. It's just so silky. It's almost street football. He's got a street footballer-esque vibe as a defender. He's got a great natural touch. He can turn inside and outside and beat people and get into midfield and knock it around. That'll be a big addition of how progressive Arsenal are coming out from the back. And suddenly with him, with Calafiori, who's fantastic, with obviously Jorginho, who didn't feature today, and a few others, you do think maybe he did actually. I'm not sure. No, he didn't feature. That this Arsenal side have got far more quality in terms of progressing the ball through midfield, and maybe that will help Trossard, that will help Martinelli, Saka and Kai Havertz get the goals needed to win the Premier League title. Big result. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you very, very soon.